Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to Series 6 of Working Hours, an oral history podcast about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. Working Hours aims to record 200 loiners, that's people from Leeds, over the first half of the most important decade in the history of the human species, and ask them about what they do all day and hear how they feel about it. My name is Simon, and this is all my fault. My mission here is to try to map out what my city, Leeds, a city that has declared a climate emergency, did during humanity's biggest emergency. On Working Hours, we hear how loiners have, are, and will be coping with our multiple and expanding crises during their day-to-day working hours. To tell this story, I need loiners like you, dear listener. I need people in Leeds or people from Leeds to come on this podcast and tell me about what they do all day and let me record how this decade affects us. Thank you for listening to this episode. What did you want to be when you grew up?
So I think I didn't really have a solid idea as a young person. I found it quite difficult to imagine being a grown-up. And I think that's a really interesting challenge as well, because the job that I do now didn't exist when I was at school. So I think that's a really interesting challenge of, like, how do we prepare young people for jobs that don't even exist yet? I was thinking, certainly I knew that I wanted a family, and that was kind of the level of it. I wanted a family, and that was about it. I know when I was at high school, I'd had ideas about being a curator, so either a museum curator or potentially for galleries, for art galleries. And I suppose I kind of do that just online. So I am a curator for other people for their social media. But I hadn't really thought about that before. I hadn't thought, actually, I kind of am a curator. I kind of have ended up in that career. But I do think that those kind of careers, arts, creative careers, weren't really something that was talked about much. And so I'd had this idea as a kid of being a curator, but I didn't really know how to get there or how I would end up there, because it wasn't, creative careers weren't really something that was discussed in my education. So
And I bet there probably weren't even any curation courses or degrees at that point, I would imagine.
I don't think so. I think you could probably do a postgrad in, if you were looking to do museum curation. But I do remember distinctly there was this attitude in the 90s and the kind of early noughties when I was a young person in school. I do remember there was this attitude of careers in creative won't pay your mortgage.
Was it all STEM stuff?
Yeah, it was. They were very much preparing young people still for careers where they would go into big organizations, institutions almost, and stay there for 40 years and come out with a nice big fat pension. Public sector, fine. And actually my first graduate role was in public sector. But yeah, there was this real attitude that the arts were not somewhere where you would be able to pay your mortgage. They were nice to have a hobby, or if you were going to pursue that, if you were really hell-bent on pursuing that, that you should have something else to fall back on. And I think as a young person who felt that their brain worked in that way and that I was a creative thinker, I found that really restrictive. Actually, I found that quite difficult. So I think that also contributed to not really having a solid idea of what I wanted to do as a grown-up. So yeah, it's interesting now. I'd like to think things might have changed slightly. I'm not convinced that informal education they have, actually. I'm not convinced we are preparing young people for, the vast number of jobs that they can do that require creative skills. I think, we're still quite prescriptive when we talk to young people about the options that are available. But perhaps with this kind of dawn of the emergence rather of the side hustle, perhaps young people are finding their own ways into those careers.
So before I move on, I want to ask, where do you think the curation idea came from? Was that something in media, or was it someone around you? Like, what was it? Just sort of, I like organizing stuff. It's I like putting things in order.
It was a bit of that, actually. I think I've always had an eye. And again, when I was a young person, I didn't know what a brand manager was. I didn't know particularly about marketing or branding. I just knew that I had this natural kind of talent for looking at how things fit cohesively together, and also how they tell a story to other people. And I find I would get quite annoyed if something didn't make a lot of sense to me. I would naturally want to put them in order so that they made sense. I think that's where it came from. I bombed art. I hated art, actually. I felt I couldn't draw. I wasn't very good at painting. I desperately wanted to be good at art. But actually, I remember one project we were given, and I think we were given 3 or 4 weeks to do it. I would have been maybe 13, 14. And we could choose any format. So it didn't have to be drawing or painting. It could be sculpture, or it could be something else. And I chose collage. And I put together this piece, and this was the first time I got a grade that was above like a D in art. And I remember that kind of switching something on for me as well, of like, actually you can take different formats and different media and bring them together into something cohesive. So I think I must have been 14. I think that there was a sort of light bulb moment there of, actually, that is something to do. And I kind of fell into marketing accidentally because I think I just had this natural bent towards organizing things and being able to organize them into a story that would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I have lots of ideas from that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the next question. So, because I think it's more important now to actually just let's see what you are doing. You're listening to Series 6, Episode 25, and to my guest, Laura Stubbs. This is another Squadcast recorded on the 5th of August, 2025. Hello, colleagues. Laura Stubbs runs social media agency Cuckoo Social Media, helping small businesses and charities in Leeds get their message out to a wider audience online. She has worked in marketing for 15 years and is also a trustee of Made with Music, a charity which brings accessible music events to families in Yorkshire. Laura formed her social media agency in 2023 to enable her to support her autistic son. Her family, Flexi Schools, that's part-time home educate, and are passionate advocates for SEND reform. Right, let's do this. Episode 180 of Working Hours with Laura Stubbs. What are you doing now then?
So I am a social media manager. I run Cuckoo Social Media, which is a small agency that works with small, medium-sized businesses, charities, grassroots organisations. And the idea was really, having worked for marketing agencies and digital agencies, you need a certain level of budget to be able to commission their services. So the idea was about making that much smaller and affordable, so that businesses and charities can use a small amount of budget to have somebody do their social media for them. Or it might not be do their social media for them. It might be consultancy, or it might be that they want to launch a product or service, and so they want to use my services for a short time until they can, and learn from me until they can really kind of do it themselves. yeah, so that's what I'm doing now.
Or get someone who knows how to do it to do the thing that they don't know how to do. Of
Yeah,
like, I
absolutely.
don't know, I don't have the time to learn this.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have a bit of a budget. Oh, I can actually use it here. So that's where you sort of fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. I find, yeah, again, if you kind of grow up, I fell into social media accidentally. So Twitter came out and Facebook was really taken off in the UK the year that I graduated
Mm.
from university. So I went and did an English degree because, again, I was told careers in creative are not where it's at. You need to have a backup. And so I did the most general degree I could think of that I would enjoy. And I did enjoy it. So the idea of a social media manager, that wasn't a job when I
Mm.
left university. So I fell into social media accidentally, and I think when those things happen, you can sometimes undervalue that you have a skill that other people don't have, or don't,
Mm-hmm.
like you say, don't have the time to develop or the interest to develop. um, and so gradually my accidental career in social media has has kind of grown.
I mean, so I'm thinking, so I'm imagining it like this from what you've said. You're kind of coming out of university, you go into a job, and they're kind of like, so this is my assumptions and my prejudices kicking in of like, oh, you're a young person, you must know computer stuff. You do this thing over here. And you're like, what is it? And you just play around with it for a bit. And then, you're working, you're learning stuff about the business and the market and how everything works. And you're also skilling yourself up in this thing, this new thing. And soon you're an expert in this new
Yeah, it didn't
thing.
quite, I mean, it didn't quite happen like that. I went
Yeah.
to work. I went to work for Leeds City Council. I went
Mm-hmm.
and worked in school access services.
Mm.
I really came out of university and did not, again, a very general degree, and really did not still know what I wanted to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went in at a very entry level position, which was basically young people who were not in school in Leeds because they've moved house or for whatever reason. My job was to make sure they were in school,
Yeah.
and get them into school. So when I was there, I was naturally drawn towards our communications and how we communicated with parents, because you can imagine, um, Leeds being a super diverse city, we get lots of families in all different positions. So some were refugees and asylum seekers. We used to get lots of families who were travellers, so they would be in Leeds for a very short time period. And I looked at the forms that we gave these families, and I just thought, these are awful. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a native English speaker and I'm finding them hard. I have an English degree and I'm
Yeah.
finding them hard to fill in. And so I sort of asked and said, is there a way I can work on these? Because we're spending a lot of time having to sit down with families and basically fill out the forms for them.
Yeah.
And they're not very friendly. They're
Mm-hmm.
horrible. And actually, I hated the thought that people would come to Leeds and be sort of given these forms which seemed unfriendly and uncommunicative and unhelpful, when what we were trying to do was provide their children with a school place. So I kind of then got drawn into a lot of the communication tasks.
Mm-hmm.
It was around that time that we were starting to look at doing away with paper forms and making sure that everyone could apply online for a school place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I got into the communication side,
Mm-hmm.
just because it was a skill I had. So I would be given those tasks. I think, again, yes, because I was a young person, I was in my early 20s. So it was like, oh, we're moving this online, so we'll give it to Laura. But actually it was super, super valuable, because that's how I started to understand, how the online world was taking communication and how that was working. And so began my obsession, really, with how humans communicate online. After that, I went to work in a high school, for a little while. And while I was there, I started a blog, and it was the first blog in Leeds about independent businesses. It was called Leeds Love Affair. And I did that anonymously. I had a different name. I had a pseudonym online. And I started writing and interviewing business owners, predominantly in Leeds city centre. So restaurants, bars, shops, places like that, and sort of founded the first Leeds Independent Awards. So that was really, we call it a side hustle now. That wasn't a term. So I did that while I was working in a high school, and really just learned that. So not even on the job, I learned that, as a hobby.
Yeah.
And then eventually sort of ended up going to a digital marketing agency and changing my career from there.
Did you apply to that, or were you headhunted?
I think I applied, and then when they realized, they were like, "Oh, you write that blog? Yeah, we know that." And that blog ran for about 10 years, and gave me so much. I had a lot of difficulty over that time, because a lot of people were saying, "Oh, well, can't you just blog for a living?"
Yeah.
But I never actually wanted to do that. It was nice to keep it as a hobby and as something that I did in my free time.
Money changes it.
Yeah, it does. Puts pressure on it. Yeah. Yeah. And I never wanted to do that. So yeah, that blog ran right up until after I had my son. And that was really how I learned my skills. And again, realized that digital agencies were really interested in that and thought that that was a skill worth paying for.
Do you still have the blogs?
No.
Are they all lost?
No, well, I've got them. Yeah, I've got them. They've been taken down online. So Leeds Love Affair came offline probably 2 years ago, maybe more actually, 3 or 4 years ago. But I still have everything saved, because eventually I then had students who were studying in Leeds used to get in touch with me. They wanted to, have somewhere to showcase their writing. I guess it was good, to include in their CV. My husband, he wasn't my husband at the time, but he also started writing for Leeds Love Affair, and then we later got married. I think it was very much kind of its time and part of my lifestyle, because once I became a mum, it became more difficult. When you've got a tiny baby, it became more difficult to go out and eat and to go out and have those experiences.
And to get sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it kind of had its time in my life, and it was very much a part of my lifestyle. The ethics around Leeds Love Affair were really different. Like I say, it was before the influencer culture. It was before the idea of blogging for a living, really. So we didn't accept freebies. We didn't accept gifts from businesses. If we went somewhere and didn't have a good experience, we just wouldn't write about it. We wouldn't write a review as such. The ethics of that blog were very, very strong. And the way that I see things have moved on, I think, is not great. I think is a bit sad, actually. And I was speaking to a client just this week about this, saying, "Gosh, do you remember when I had that blog and I wouldn't accept a free meal from you?" Because we didn't want it to be swayed. We wanted it to be honest. We wanted it to be a true representation of our experiences eating and shopping and living in Leeds. And a lot of that, unfortunately, I think has moved in a sour direction.
Well, as well, so I'm thinking at that time this is probably going to be when you first get influencers emerging.
Yeah.
And you're rightly thinking, well, if we start taking all of the things, then that's basically what we're going to be about, like getting free stuff. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting, that's probably a pivotal moment of like, no, I'm not going to go down that route of getting loads of free stuff and being all about me. I'm trying to do a specific thing here. So there's an integrity to that as well.
Yeah, it's the same principle that my current agency is founded on, which is that these businesses have very little budget to operate, especially when you're a startup, especially when you're first starting. Room for a marketing budget is very, very slim. And so again, Leeds Love Affair was really founded in a way to help those businesses get out, reach more customers, reach new customers, that wasn't in a way that wasn't going to cost them anything.
Yeah.
And so to sort of say, oh, well, yeah, we'll take a free meal or, free drinks or whatever, felt completely counter to that. And it's that same principle that Cuckoo Social Media has been founded on, which is how do we take this service that businesses really need, small businesses really need, and make it affordable.
So my next question is normally how you got into it. We've kind of covered a bit of that. So let's sort of frame it as, how did you get started? What made you take the jump, or were you pushed to start up for yourself? And was it simple, sort of, if I'm going to start a business, this is where I need to go. This is where my strengths are. This is my career. This is my trajectory. Or were you like, I need to get out of this. I need to do something else. What am I going to do? What could I possibly do? So what's the story of starting the business?
So pre-COVID, I was working for a social enterprise who work on really entrepreneurial skills with young people, and social mobility, and helping businesses, or making sure, I should say, that businesses play a part in educating young people, particularly those who, don't have connections in employment themselves. So they might be from a community where, or a family where nobody has ever been employed. And I thought, this was pre-COVID, in my late 20s, I just got married. I thought I'll go for a couple of years. They'd never had anyone look after their marketing, so they were very excited to have somebody, from a digital agency come and help them with that. And I thought I'll come for a couple of years and see how it goes, and then I don't know, maybe I'll go back into the digital sphere. We'll see. And I ended up staying for 7 years because it was just such fulfilling work. It was just amazing. So that organization, Ahead Partnership, was founded in Leeds, is still going in Leeds. They've just celebrated 20 years, and founded by the absolutely incredible CEO, Stephanie Burris. And I think Stephanie was really a huge influence for me. She had been a corporate solicitor. She was a partner at a huge law firm, and she gave all that up to found Ahead Partnership. And people must have thought she was bonkers. But she was so determined, and she was so sure of this idea to get businesses involved in programs with young people to help them understand what opportunities were out there for them. And I think that always stayed with me. I think she was a huge influence. And in all that learning, I had amazing opportunities at that organization. I worked on an international research project with Leeds Beckett University, where I got to work in Portugal and Norway. And I was given so much ownership, and so much ownership, and so much, sorry, I've lost my...
Autonomy? Freedom?
Yeah, I was given so many amazing projects to work on,
right,
and helping to develop that social enterprise. So they started just working in Leeds, then they were working in Yorkshire, then they were working across the whole UK. And I was really such a huge part of that, that it taught me so much about growing and developing a business.
Yeah, it's a really useful thing to see a business kind of go like through that growth spurt, and because it changes it, doesn't it? It's like, because you start with a small little team and everyone knows each other, and it's all like we're all on the same page, and then strangers come in and all the dynamics start changing and being disrupted, and you're like, what are we doing now?
I think as well, there wasn't just Stephanie as well. It was a real little battery of amazing, and I will say it, amazing women who drove that business, who really developed it. And I got to be part of that and learn from these women. And that it was just invaluable. And so actually, when I told them that I was going to leave, I timed it with my son starting primary school. I wanted more flexibility to be able to do the drop-offs and the pickup, and he has special needs as well, so I wanted more flexibility around that to support him with that. Their response when I said that was just so positive and so encouraging. And yeah, the response to that was widely, yes, of course you are. Of course you're going to find your own business and it's going to be an amazing success. So
that's a no-brainer, of course.
Yeah, like obviously. I had actually, full disclosure, I had actually gone through the discernment process to become a priest in the Church of England.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you kept that secret.
I know. I felt I was being called to something.
Yeah.
And so I went through that process of about 2 years, of which, again, Stephanie and a head partnership, everyone there was so encouraging. And I sort of was coming to the end of that process, the bit where they decide whether you can go for your vicar training, and realised that I couldn't commit to that, as well as being as flexible and committing to mothering my son in the way that I wanted. And that was a hard thing. You've gone through this process for 2 years in a direction that you think you're called to. It's only now that I realise that I was called to something else, and I was called to found my business so that I would be able to parent my son in the way that I want to. Because if I wasn't a business owner now, if I wasn't self-employed, I wouldn't have the space to flexi school my son. Which, for anyone listening who thinks, what is flexi schooling? Flexi schooling is where your child is on the roll at a school and attends school part-time, but you also home educate part of the time as well. And that's something that my son really needs and has really benefited from. But I would not have been able to do that if I hadn't been self-employed, I don't think.
Yeah. Where do I want to go? Well, let's just stay with the questions for now. So you mentioned COVID, and it's one of the questions. So take us through that COVID time. So where were you at the beginning? How was it going into the lockdown? Was it sort of a huge increase in work? Did it stay the same? Did it drop off? Was there much of a change? And then coming out the other side, well, there's, depending where you place that, what has kind of changed permanently for you, if anything has?
I think COVID was the single biggest disruptor in my career and for our family. Actually, it changed everything, and its impact is still like going on today even. So our son was a toddler. He wasn't quite 2 when we had that first lockdown. And so that was a challenge because he couldn't be in nursery anymore. And you can't work and have especially like any 2-year-old, but like an autistic 2-year-old, you can't. So I was really fortunate in that for a head partnership, it meant that they couldn't deliver a lot of their work in schools. And so I was furloughed. So I had 6 months at home with my son, which I wouldn't have got otherwise in any other situation. So we decided to see that as a real gift, a weird one, a real curveball that we hadn't expected. But yeah, I got six months with my son at home that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and during a really crucial time for him. So that was really positive. My husband was a key worker. He was working for a charity, but was a key worker. So he kept working. I don't know how, but he kept working from home.
Oh, from home. Yeah.
Oh yeah, all the way through that. It was crazy. So, and it really shifted our work-life balance, because previous to that, our son had been in nursery pretty much full time. And I'd felt not unhappy, but I'd felt like, is this the right thing? I'd questioned that, because I felt very much, I've had a child. I want to be very involved with my child. And yet 5 days a week, I'm very, committed to work, and he's being cared for by somebody else.
Yeah.
So it really completely tipped the balance for us. And after I'd had those 6 months, I said to my husband, I don't think I can go back. Like I said, I sensed that I was being called to something else during that time. And that's when I started to explore becoming a priest. So for us, after furlough, Ahead Partnership had a slight reorganization. And I said to my husband, if they want volunteers for redundancy, I might volunteer. I think it might be time. And he was happy to support that. We thought, we'll muddle through, we'll figure that out. And actually, they didn't ask for redundancies. They said to me, well, how would a part-time arrangement work for you? And it was like, perfect. So I was able then to work part-time at Ahead Partnership, which I loved, while also going through the discernment and studying for the discernment process for the Church of England. So yeah, it seemed to be kind of working out. Now, obviously, we know that the discernment process didn't quite end up where I thought I was going to be. I discerned that I probably wasn't suited for the priesthood and I should go somewhere else. But we kept that principle, really, of we don't want our work-life balance to return to where it was pre-COVID. It was a whole scale change in attitude for me and my husband of like, why are we doing this? Like, what is it for? Why would we kill ourselves at work and miss out enjoying that time with our son? That doesn't make sense. And that's not, what we set out to do when we started a family. So that was really then, okay, I need to look at self-employment to have that, have the flexibility. So it's still, we're still retaining that now. My husband has also changed employer. He's now in the civil service, but with a really flexible work pattern. And I think now, you hear about employers who are kind of dragging people back into the workplace and now sort of trying to lock down those hours again and lock people down to the 40-hour weeks plus. I just think that's bananas. Like, I can't understand, because guess what? We all got our jobs done during COVID. So we can continue doing them.
It boggles my mind in a lot of ways that there's still this kind of authoritarian trend in stuff when you see, like, your example as well of like, and I've heard, not just on people on this podcast, but also the Leeds Business podcast, where people talk about, positive employers who have been like, oh, you're leaving, great. Like, not, we're sad to lose you, but also that's great for you, you're going to go on, you're going to do something better. And when you have that attitude, guess what? The employee's like, wow, that was amazing. And has a really good memory of you. Tells that to everybody. So you've got that positive word of mouth. And plus, they could come back if they've really enjoyed that experience. They could come back way more skilled than when they left. You haven't had to train them and put that time in. And now you've got, someone who you loved having there before, they're back. And they've got all these new skills and all this new knowledge. And it's like, it's logical to me. Do you know what I mean? It's the sort of, just treat people nice-ish.
Not that hard. And that was a real trend actually at Ahead Partnership, where people would move on to other things, and sometimes they would return as well. Again, I do credit it with being very female-led. So we had lots of women of my age who started families and were so well supported back into work. There was a real attitude towards flexibility, you know, when you have children as well, they get sick all the time. Like, you know, school's ringing, or, you know, these things happen. And that was never viewed with any judgment. Nobody was ever accused of slacking, or, you know, it was just, we really kind of rallied around each other. And that was such an amazing, I really think, such a model for how all workplaces should be. But I do credit that with the fact that most of the leadership were women, and just had this real attitude of, together we can do it, and together we will do it. So yeah, when I then sort of, they were really behind me joining the priesthood. They thought that was fantastic. And then when it was actually them I turned to. I was really upset. I said, actually, I feel like I've wasted 2 years and it's not worked out the way that I thought it was going to. And they were so patient and understanding and really supportive. And, you know, I sort of had that backup of working at a head partnership three days a week, which continued way after the lockdowns. And then, yeah, it's coming up to 2 years. So 2 years ago, I did then leave. And actually, it meant I could leave my role in a really good place as well. So I was able to give them a whole year's notice, a whole year, that I was going to leave. So I was able to help them recruit my replacement. I was able then to plan and leave things where I wanted to leave them.
Do a proper full handover of like everything.
It was really effective. It was really positive. You know, pretty much everyone from my head partnership is still in touch with me and are still cheerleading my business. And like I say, there's this attitude of, yeah, of course it's successful. Right?
You know what you're doing. You know how to do this. Just go do it.
Of course you are. I remember one colleague saying to me, and I'd worked with her right from the start. She recruited me into a head partnership initially. Yeah, the amazing Megan Lip. I remember she said to me, well, you can't take time out. I said, what do you mean I can't take time out? She said, no, you need something. Like, you're gonna figure this out. And then when I told them, a couple of months before I left, I said, actually, I am starting a business and this is what it's going to be. And, you know, if you know anyone who's interested, kind of thing. And Megan was like, of course. Of course, I told you. Because she knows, you know, we worked together for 7 years and she knows how my brain works. She knows that I needed something. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got a friend that I'm, you know, so there's like group of 3 of us from years back, and the 2 of us have started businesses, and he's working, like he's abroad and he's still working, he's bitching about working all the time, and it's just like, work for yourself. Why are you not working for yourself? You're not a person who should have a boss. Like, you don't take instruction well, and like you need to do it for yourself. And I'm trying to push him, but, you know, you can't take that jump until you're ready, can you really?
Yeah, and I think as well, we're not, I have hope for kind of younger generations that they might be a bit braver and they might be a bit better prepared for the idea of self-employment. I know certainly at high school, the idea of self-employment was never even mentioned. I know a lot of people, you know, complain and say, you know, they don't tell kids how to do taxes in school. It
or
goes
buy houses or run credit cards.
Absolutely. But it goes beyond that, actually. We don't, like I say, I hope things have changed slightly now, but they don't really talk about entrepreneurship in the sense of you can be your own boss. And I still volunteer for a head partnership occasionally, and you can always tell when you're at their events and you talk about, oh, I'm self-employed, you can always see the kids where their eyes light up and they're like, oh, like, because nobody has ever talk to them about that being a possibility. I think we are still very much preparing young people for, you know, working somewhere for 30, 40 years and then you get your pension, when the reality is our economy doesn't work like that.
But there are no jobs like that either. No. Unless, like, even within professions at this point, you know, it'd be rare that you're going to spend, 30, 40 years doing
The
this
whole
exact
working
same
life.
thing. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
would branch off into specialisms and so on now, like even if you were staying in that career. And many people will do it for a bit and then it's like, I'm going to do something entirely different now
yeah.
because that's the job I've found.
Yeah, and I think that's important as well, understanding that you can retrain, that you can do something else. My husband retrained when he turned 30, and that's when he went to work at the charity and became a key worker and now works at the civil service. But I remember that felt inherently risky.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both my parents are business owners. And so I think, again, that had an influence as well of
Absolutely.
like, of course you can be self-employed. Off you go.
Yeah,
Like,
because you've already got the model there. You've seen
yeah,
people
yeah,
in your life who do it and have
yeah.
done it, and you're like, well,
And
that's a
have done it really
possibility.
successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my stepdad, he's somebody who realized very early on, basically at school, I can't work for somebody else.
Yeah.
That's not going to work for me. So yeah, I had that model. Whereas again, if you don't have that model anywhere in your family or anywhere within your circle of experience, then that can seem really risky. It
It
can
doesn't
seem
seem like a real possibility because it's that
no.
thing of like you see it on TV, you see these things on TV, but then you look at reality around you.
Mm,
And, again, we don't necessarily realize that we're only seeing a tiny picture there and that,
yeah,
our actual real lived experience is to a small degree like a little echo chamber of you just seeing the same people and the same stories and the same possibilities. But then when you meet other people and you're like, oh, you could do that. Oh,
yeah,
what, someone like me can do that. Well,
yeah,
I can do that. I didn't know
yeah,
I could do that. I know it's possible. I know it's a thing other people do. I didn't know it was something I could do.
yeah, yeah. I think that's accurate. And I think
Yeah.
we're quite risk averse. I think it is like quite a British cultural thing as well.
Mm,
We like to be quite humble. We quite risk averse. The thought of risk is scary to us. But actually, all the best entrepreneurs I know, all the really successful entrepreneurs I know, so some of my clients that I work with now, Stephanie Burris, they all were prepared to take that risk
mm,
and have built wonderful things on top of it.
mm,
And I know it seems very idealistic to say, think of the possibilities. But
mm.
actually, you do need to be able to do that, I think, to take that step into self-employment.
Yeah, because the other side of the reality is 50% of your businesses will fail in the first year and
Yeah,
90% will fail in the first 3 years. So,
yeah,
which is why, but that's the risk side, and a lot of that you can counter those risks because a lot of people are going into that situation just like which is why a lot of the businesses fail, and I did a bit of market research before I started this, but I didn't do nearly enough,
mm,
like because I didn't really know what I was looking for.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, if I have another business, if this one goes, then I know better for next time.
yeah,
So
yes, yeah. And I think it's okay as well to kind of take it and say, I've always approached it from we'll just see how we go.
yeah,
We'll just see how we go.
yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, there'll be something else. You still will have a solid skill set from that experience, and you'll
Mm.
be able to take that and use that somewhere else.
Hmm. Yeah, and failure is the best teacher, isn't it? So
That's true.
if you screw it all up on the first one, at least you know what not to do now.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can learn and understand that, then yeah.
So let's do Brexit next. So has Brexit changed your work at all? Is there anything that you've noticed in how you're working that Brexit has actually affected?
I think the main thing about Brexit is it's really limited possibilities,
Hmm.
particularly for people in the creative sector.
Mm.
So when everything started actually happening, I know there were lots of musicians that I know who couldn't go and do gigs abroad or couldn't do
Hmm.
jobs abroad. And I think for me and my husband, because we're both mainly remote workers, that seemed to open up possibilities
Mm.
to travel with our family and still be able to hold down our jobs. And unfortunately now that's not the case because of this decision that's been made. I mentioned before, in my previous job, I was part of a brilliant research project with Leeds Beckett University, and that was one of the very last Erasmus funded projects to get through before the whole Brexit thing. So I did actually have the opportunity. It was a project, I think it was about 3 years in the end. And we had a conference in Portugal, and the other research partners were from Italy, Slovenia, Norway, and Portugal. So we could go to each other's countries and work together. And then we worked in Norway. We filmed some of the project in Norway, and then we had the final conference in Portugal again. So, and that was an amazing experience. I learned so much culturally, I think, about working with people from other countries and their kind of cultural expectations of, working together in the workplace. It was fascinating. And all of that's gone because of Brexit. So that project, we managed to get the funding secured before Brexit. So we were able to continue it and finish it. And if anyone's interested in that, it's called Design My Future. There's still a website about that. It was about how we tackle early school leaving across Europe. So designmyfuture.eu if you want to know more. But all of that has gone because of Brexit. And I just think, what have we done? Like, why? How can that be a good thing? That was an amazing project that I even just personally found so enriching and so valuable. Never mind all of the outputs from that project, which have gone on to benefit young people across Europe. And we've just done away. We've counted ourselves out of that now. Why would we do that? It seems so like counterproductive. So I think the main thing for our family is that as mainly remote workers, we'd kind of thought, oh, well, this is great. We can
digital nomad this. We can go anywhere and be anywhere.
Yeah, we could. I mean, I don't hold out much hope for us packing our 6-year-old into a camper van and that's not quite where we are. But we can't do that now because we can't work for any length of time abroad. Well, we can't work in other EU countries now. So for me, the whole thing is disappointing, counterintuitive, I would say. And I think that realistically, a lot of people probably weren't aware that those were going to be the repercussions. So it's sad. Hopefully we'll work our way through, even if we never join the EU again. Hopefully we'll come to arrangements where we can get some of those rights and those privileges, I suppose, back.
I'm not going to respond to that. But only because I've spent so much time on Brexit. I mean, I don't disagree with anything you've said. So let's do climate change first, then we'll get into social media because that's your area, and I think we'll spend more time on that. So Leeds has declared a climate emergency. It's one of the few cities in the UK that has. And I want to talk about climate change because it's my main obsession, anxiety. So in your work, does climate change affect it at all? Do you have is there any design element of your business around it? Do you have green policies, or is it just I try and do a bit of recycling and I try and cut down this, or is it part of the business design? Is it something you think about, or is that I've got to make money first, and then when I've made money and I've got all the things that I must have for my business to be how it should be in my mind, and then I can start adding all the other fancier things on? So how does it interact with your work?
So I think it's very easy for people who work freelance to think, well, this doesn't really affect me, unless it's in a very obvious way, unless you're in an industry where there's a lot of waste produced, for example. Actually, it applies to every single one of us. And I think you can't. So for me, as a social media manager, you can't afford to turn your back on climate change and think, well, that doesn't affect me, because actually your clients want to understand what you're doing about it and what the impact of working with you is on the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think only really in this kind of conversation around AI, I think people have suddenly realized that, oh, even if I just work online, so I work in social media,
Mm-hmm.
that still has an impact on the planet because of servers, because of, you know, the water that is required to cool servers to run AI and things like that.
And the fact that it can't exist without energy, like it
Yeah,
literally is just a useless brick without the energy going through it
yeah,
to make it be
absolutely.
data.
Absolutely. So I think I would say um, I've really tried to spell out to my clients like how we can reduce the impact, how we work. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of AI for content creation anyway. I think it can help, I think it can give you ideas, but I don't think anybody should be using AI to create their content. I just don't. I think it you know is murdering an art form. So um
It's
so
it's that, like, it's the thing where, you know, no one's seeing the final product. It's like you're producing
yeah,
something that you're not actually, you have zero care for. You don't know what
yeah,
it looks like at the end point because no one's looked at it. They've
yeah.
just made it and put it out.
Yeah, and you can, I thought it was interesting a few weeks ago, people suddenly picking up that social media social media posts written by AI using the long dash.
Mm,
And I thought that was really interesting that people were like, and like really, getting really angry about it. And it was like, well, I realized that probably more than a year ago and was like, oh, isn't that odd? So really it's about, I've kind of tried to take a hand in educating clients and making sure that my impact as a business is as low as possible.
mm,
As a family, we're really into recycling. We compost at home. That's something we started doing during the first lockdown, actually,
mm,
because we also feel that we want to have something solid and positive to
yeah.
hand to our son.
Mm,
And I feel we feel worried about climate change. We feel worried about what's been handed over to us and the
mm,
level of consumerism and what that is now costing us.
mm,
We don't want to make that same mistake for our
mm,
child, for his generation. So we feel quite, strongly as a family that there are very small things you can do. And that extends to working as a freelancer as well. There are
mm,
very small things that I do in my business. From choosing how and where I store things and which providers I'm, choosing and,
mm,
not using AI excessively, that kind of thing. And trying to educate my clients about that as well, so that they in turn can also make positive decisions and positive changes to their operations.
mm. So that last bit that you just said sounds quite easy. Is it? When you say it in words, that sounds like really simple and straightforward. Do you have, like, is it quite easy to kind of get people on board and convince people, or is it?
Maybe again because of the nature of my work, so I tend to work with a lot of small medium businesses, and so
Mm,
change is easier for those businesses because you're not having thousands of people to have to influence, and there's not lots of policy and process. I work with a lot of founders, a lot of owners of businesses,
mm,
and so they are the decision makers. They are
mm,
the ones who can make those positive changes. And actually, I'm really fortunate. They're all fabulous. They're all
mm,
bothered. They all see it as important.
mm,
And so in my case, it's a lot easier probably because we have those conversations about how we can change things. And I've actually got one client. They're a restaurant in Leeds,
mm,
and their operations in order to recycle and reduce their waste and, you know, source things sustainably is just incredible. And nobody has influenced them to do that. They just do that. They view it as important. They also have a son, a teenage son, so a bit older than mine. And, you know, I think particularly when you're a parent, it just feels so crucial. We want to get it right. We want to be good stewards so that we can hand over something positive to our kids.
Do you promote your green credentials? Is it something that you kind of shout about, or is it?
It's definitely something that we promote on Cuckoo's Instagram page.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
I mean, it sounds like it's part of your brand. It sounds like part of your value set within the
Yeah,
business.
I think, you know, it's not just about kind of environmental impact as well. It's about social impact. Like, what is your business? What are you contributing? Are you just take? And again, I think it can be really easy as a self-employed person to think, well, it's only me, so it doesn't matter. But I think it's important at every level of business that you understand and you set an example and you lead by example, really. So I do a lot of volunteering. I'm a trustee for a completely unrelated to me music charity. I'm a school governor as well at a primary school in Leeds, because I think it's important to consider, they call it used to be corporate social responsibility back when I worked at marketing agencies, and now they call it CSR. So I think it's now they call it ESG, environmental, social and governance. I think it's really important to look at the whole picture. So it's not just about climate change, it's about everything else that your business is doing and how it affects people, planet. You know, are we just taking, like you say, are we just interested in making money, or are we making, you know, more of a contribution than that? And my volunteering is really important to me because that's the best way. That was something that was really instilled at me working with a head partnership. It's the best way. You do have something valuable to pass on to your community. And I suppose it comes as part of being a Christian as well, is you're called to be a good steward of this planet and to be, you know, a brother to everyone, or a sister in my case, to everybody, to care. And to show that you care and to show compassion and love for everybody. So, yeah, it's kind of, I suppose it's a mixture of things. It's a mixture of how I was brought up. It's a mixture of my work experience of working with an amazing social enterprise. And it's also that kind of combination of my faith as well.
So I'm going to go onto social media. I might come back to this later. Well, I mean, there's always things that you can go off on and kind of, and sometimes I'm like, let's go down this route. And then other times I'm like, Simon, just keep it under control and just do the thing. Because then you start slipping, like the last interview I did. And I'll mention as well, I've interviewed someone from a head partnership, so it will either be out before this or after. But
amazing. For
any listeners and or viewers, if we're doing that, go check that out. It should be out by then, by the time this comes out. So I think it was 3.5 hours, and it was an in-person one. He didn't have anything later, so there was a lot of slippage that we could do. And the reason that it's 2 hours is because early on I did a 3-hour chat, which was great. I mean, it's like there's great content in there, there's lots of information in there, but it's a bugger to edit of just going through it, because it's like, even if you're not touching it and you're just kind of proofing it, it's still like,
it's a lot,
you know, 3 or 4, it's at least double the amount of time that you've got, like, as a rule of thumb. So that's going to be 6 hours of editing for that, without, you know, just as a basic. So I'm kind of dreading that, but it's far off. I've got like 18 other, you know, like times 2 hours to edit.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's not the best idea I ever had to do this. It's cost me a fortune, and it's really stressful.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm going to go on to the social media question. Feel free to talk about anything around social media, how it interacts with your work, or like, you know, you strengths and weaknesses, any of that kind of stuff. But what I'm looking for here is the kind of return on investment. Obviously, you're working in this field, so you can't exactly be like, no, it's all worthless and it doesn't work and it's all a big trick.
I might surprise you with some of my views on social media.
All right, well, let's go then. Over to you. How does social media impact your work, and how much time do you have to spend on it? Like, yeah, is it a good tool for you?
I mean, obviously, social media is my living. It's what I do for a living. But like I say, I really fell into that accidentally. It wasn't a thing. So, and it's emerged as I was emerging into my working life. So I'm not one of those people who's grown up and always had it around. And I think as we see younger generations come through the workforce, I think we will start to see a change in how social media is used because of that, because they're so intuitive, because they've always had it in their life. In terms of social media, of course, I'm going to say that it's worth, you know, people getting involved. And what I am quite strict on with all my clients is the balance that is required to do it effectively in a way that does not harm your mind and your soul, basically. I think it always surprises people when a social media manager says, can you turn off push notifications? Can you set really hard limits around when you're accessing social media? Because I think it's very easy. In fact, I know it's very easy to be in a place where social media eats into more and more of your time and your brain space. And that's just not healthy. And I think if people can try and understand that if you're a social media user, you are in fact the product of that service. If you can try and understand that, and yes, that sounds very nefarious.
It's the model for advertising run businesses. This is how newspapers worked. They sold eyeballs to advertisers. They didn't make money off that cover price. Like, nobody was making any money off that, however much it was, you know, 50p, a pound, whatever.
Exactly. And social media works in exactly the same way. So it's really important to have perspective and to have really healthy boundaries around social media. I am very strict with my clients. If I see them replying to DMs at midnight, I will have words with them about that, because I think part of working with me as well is about having someone you're accountable to, I suppose, and having somebody who's watching your back and saying, this isn't healthy, and please be mindful of this. And I think social media can be a deeply damaging environment. My son's only 6, but I'm very guarded about what I share about my son, about what he is able to consent to, that I share about him. And I will be very guarded about things like getting a mobile phone and giving him access to these platforms, because I think you have to be ready for those, and you have to be should be fully informed about the implications of inviting that into your life. Instagram is not a place where you take pictures of your dinner and post them online. And when I started Leeds Love Affair, that's what Instagram was. It was just pictures of people's dinner and people's holidays. And that was really, quite low key and pleasant and, non intrusive. I think what it's grown to become is something altogether different. And obviously I'm involved in that industry, so I have to take responsibility for that. But part of that is setting really healthy boundaries, educating people around that, I think when people come to my training workshops, they're very shocked by the information that I give them about, the kind of data that is harvested from social media, and just about, remembering that social media is a highlight reel. It's not real life. It's nowhere near real life. So to always kind of keep that in mind.
So in terms of your use, so a lot of marketing people are really bad at doing their own marketing because they're spending so much time doing other people's marketing.
That's true.
So that you don't have the time and the chance to market yourself.
Yeah.
I'm really good at marketing. Look at my marketing.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's something similar with social media where you're not really spending much time on your own social media. Maybe you're looking at other people's and what they're doing and helping produce content and strategy and refine messages and so on.
It's definitely a trap you can fall into. Every marketing agency I ever worked at had that problem where they were doing everyone else's marketing, and they were, so they weren't making time for their own.
They need a marketing agency just for marketing agencies, but never markets.
I think the way that I've managed to manage it, because bear in mind there's only me at my agency as well, and I am home educating my son part-time. So I think the way that I've done it is to make it as honest and as real as I can as well. I don't have time. And I say this to my clients a lot. We don't have time to be like producing really super overproduced video, or we just don't like.
I think that's a really key point. I think that's one of the things that's really critical with it, because it feels like it should be a performance space, like because you're producing media and like, I'm from a theatre filmish background, like that was my obsessions, and it's that whole thing of like when I'm making something, like I should do video, but I don't because I don't want to, largely, is the main thing. But also because it's like, I feel like it needs to be good. I feel like I need to put things into it. But I know that I don't have to. And I know that I can just start with something really easy and something crap, and I can build up from there. But it's that, it's a conflict in my mind of how that should be done and the reality of how it needs to be done. I think that's difficult for some people.
Yeah, I think particularly on Instagram, people are very aware now of when something is very produced. And look, brand video, corporate video, that kind of thing. Yes, they have their place, definitely. But I think actually, I know that most users on Instagram.
That's it. You're the expert. Be the expert.
Exactly. They're more interested in seeing the real, what is really going on in a business. And so the most engaged with content that I produce for my clients and that I produce for myself, I mean, in my case, it's my cat. If I post a picture of something ridiculous my cat is doing, that's always just more popular than anything else, because that's the real side. That's really what's going on for me, and it's not overproduced and it's just genuine. In terms of my clients, the content that always gets the most engagement is straightforward photos of their team, of their staff, and what they're up to and what's going on, because that's what people want to see. They want to understand about your business. So it doesn't need to be super overproduced, or I work with a lot of professional photographers, and they, that kind of whole industry has really moved away from posed shots and setting shots up. It's more about the incidentals now, just the little things that you capture, little conversations between your team that you might capture on film or, in photo. That stuff is so much more valuable now and says much more about your brand and your business than, everybody, those very corporate, everybody standing in front of the camera. So I think people have gotten really wise now to, when they're being sold something, and we as humans don't appreciate it. It's uncanny. We don't like it, and we actively kind of back away from it. So a lot of people, when they come to work with me, say, oh, you know, we're a bit worried about, and I say, no, just send me everything. Send me all the pictures that you take on your phone. And I have like loads of WhatsApp groups where people are sending me pictures, you know, because that's the real side of your business. That's what people want to see.
Yeah. So how do clients come to you? Is it word of mouth recommends? Do you get traffic online? Are you kind of selective with it? Like how does it work? Are you at a point where you can turn people away, or you have to take everything on, or you've got a good position where you're kind of like, I need to keep clients coming in, but I'm okay at the moment and the level's okay? Like, is it fairly steady or is it very variable?
So I've been fully booked for a year now. I don't have space to take on anymore, because the ambition for my business was never to employ loads of people, to grow a massive agency. I'm just, maybe if I'd been younger when I started, maybe there would have been that ambition there. It's not there. And the most important thing for us as a family is to have that flexibility so that I'm there for my son. So because of that, because there's only me, there's finite resource. And yes, it's about working with, you know, the right clients, the right businesses where I can do really great work for them that's really going to have an impact on their business, and working with nice people. And I'm really blessed because my clients are amazing. They're so flexible. A lot of them are parents themselves. And they're, you know, if I email them at, you know, 10 o'clock at night, because that's when I can fit work in this week, you know, that's generally not a problem. You know, they're so accommodating of that. I think a lot of them being founders of businesses, they're entrepreneurs. So they know what that's like. They know that themselves, and they're very open-minded and very accommodating of different working styles and different working patterns. It doesn't need to be a nine to five. And that also in turn makes it so much easier to service your clients. When you've got that flexibility from them, you can be flexible right back. So yeah, I don't want to jinx it or anything. I sometimes think I have never done a push on my own social media because really fortunately I've never needed to. People still buy from people, and that's something that people need to remember when they're, you know, promoting things online as well. People still buy from people. That's why they want to see the genuine stuff. And so it's kind of a combination. I've got a lot of work through word of mouth. Sometimes I think, oh, they must look at my Instagram and think, you've hardly got any followers. How could you? I can't afford to have thousands of followers because I'd just be constantly turning work away. So I've never needed to do big promotion, really, fortunately. That sounds really arrogant. And I remember...
No, it doesn't.
Well, I remember a friend saying, because she's also self-employed and she works in consultancy with businesses. And she said, oh, it sounds a bit, because nobody else is saying that. I think social media is often an aspect of a business that you know is important, you know you need to do it, but people either don't have the skills or the time or the like inclination to do it. So I'm a really easy service for people to use to make that happen, that you can kind of outsource to. And I obviously really enjoy doing that. I have just been so fortunate. A lot of social media managers as well, they niche down. So they say, okay, I'm a social media manager and I specialize in restaurants or whatever, restaurants and cafes. And I've never done that. Maybe because I'm neurodivergent myself and that doesn't suit me. I need variety. I like having lots of different industries to work in and lots of different content to create. So it's partially that. But I also think, well, if you do that, wouldn't you just be creating the same content for all your clients? Like, I think that's potentially quite dangerous. So, as a business, so yeah, sometimes I worry. I think, oh no, and I do. It has happened. I know it's happened. People have said, oh, go and speak to Laura, about social media, and they look on my Instagram and they go, oh, well, you've not got thousands and thousands of followers, so she can't be that good. Kind of intentional.
Well, I messaged you because of your Instagram. Like, I saw your Instagram. Something came up, and I can't remember how or what the post was, but it was like I'd seen a post, and then that brought me to your page, or maybe came to the page from like the For You or something I recommend. But I messaged you because I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Like, your profile page looked interesting to me. So it works.
It's worked in that respect. Yeah, it's worked in that respect. Like I say, hopefully the business will always operate that way. We have to be realistic. It probably won't. But again, because I'm a finite resource, and I think that's really common in people who go freelance, people who go self-employed, is that they're not aware and they don't plan effectively for how much work should you take on.
Yeah.
And they burn out.
Yeah.
And I've been really conscious of that from the beginning, that I can't afford for that to happen.
Yeah.
Because of the impact that will have, not just on my business, but on my wider family. So I think I've always been really conscious that I need to kind of build the business slowly, not take on too much, because the other risk in that is if you take on too much, then nobody's going to be happy. You're not going to be able to do all the work.
Yeah.
And then that that's reputation damaging as well.
Yeah, doing a lot badly is not
not
as good as doing a few things really well.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of the opposite problem with this, in that I could spend more time making them really excellent and like really working on, like working with the guest and so on, and I could get very perfectionist about it, but I know that this is a quantity game for what I'm doing. So it's just like I've got to smash them out as much as I can at the speed that I can with just me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
sometimes good and done is better than perfect.
Yeah. It's another one. Like, there's good stuff in there. If someone's going to listen to it, they're going to get value from it, and someone will listen to it. Maybe not all the people that I wanted to listen to it, but someone will listen to it. Sure. And then hopefully they'll listen to another one, and hopefully they'll either contact the guest and start working with them, or they'll come to me for something, either to be on the show or to hire me for work or whatever. But that's the whole point, isn't it? It's like, you're doing it so you can do another one, and then you can do another one, and then you can do another one, and you can get better and better and do different things and do it in different ways. Yes, the repetition. Are there any platforms you don't use or don't work on?
So I, again, this is something when people train with me, like, it's the first thing is like, you need to figure out who your audience is, who your ideal customer is, and then concentrate on the platforms that they're on. As a result, very early on in the business, I stopped doing TikTok for my clients, because it's a much younger audience generally. For some of my clients, it might be an appropriate channel. It just so happens at the moment that the kind of people that are their ideal customer are older. And so there really is no point. And I do see this again a lot. Business owners who think, oh, this is the new trendy thing, so I need to hop on it right away. And actually, that's not true. And it just means that the quality on your other platforms will probably dip, because you're trying to do everything, like we said, instead of a few targeted things very well. TikTok content generally takes more time to produce. And so, like I say, for my current clients, that's not really, it's not an appropriate use of time or resource, I don't think. Nothing against TikTok. Though I do think it's interesting that TikTok has had a huge explosion in growth, and that is starting to tail off. I don't think TikTok.
Which is the case with all of them, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Well,
they build, they get a bit of momentum, and then it's like plateau, and then.
Well, Instagram is on the rise again. So again, I think people need to kind of do their research and really consider whether something that eats up quite a bit of time is worth it for them. And I absolutely won't touch X these days.
Yeah.
Now, which is sad because Twitter is where my blog really took off. That was the platform that really, that really kind of made my blog popular and made it grow. And I have got friends that are still friends that I met on Twitter. So that for me is really sad, but because of everything that's going on there and because of my personal beliefs, I'm just not interested. And I won't do it for clients.
No, that's fair enough. The amount of people that are like, and the amount of heartbroken people as well who are like, I loved Twitter. Like I loved it, and I loved all of the stuff that was on there, and now it's been taken from me, and I'm really quite upset about it.
Yeah, my husband was one of those people. He really enjoyed Twitter. We actually ended up, we went to school together, kind of lost touch, and then got back in touch with each other through Twitter. I saw a tweet that he'd posted about one of the John Lewis Christmas ads, and then he never left.
The rest was history.
Yeah. Yeah, we arranged to meet up and he never left. So for us, that we're a whole family now formed because of Twitter. So it seems really odd. But I did have to have kind of harsh words with my husband about like, why are you still on this platform? And eventually he was like, do you know what, you're right, because we don't want to be supporting a platform that supports hate or anything else like that.
And disinformation and
absolutely
all sorts of other stuff. So I'm trying to think. I'm thinking more social media sort of questions. I mean, do you spend a fair bit of time just on LinkedIn, kind of professionally, not necessarily posting, just kind of seeing and responding to stuff? Do you interact on people's posts or?
Yes, so I am on LinkedIn. I do manage LinkedIn for a few clients. So again, there are a few business founders who, have B2B businesses. So that's definitely a great space for them. And I enjoy working with them on that. For me personally on LinkedIn, I would say actually, since I went self-employed, I'm probably on there less.
Yeah.
And I am, I'm on there most days, just checking things out. And I think it's important to still treat those platforms like communities. That's how they were originally founded. And so I do like to interact with people's content. I think it's important to do that, not to be seen, not for my own visibility, but because I think without treating social media like a community, I think they can become pretty lonely, dark places.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And so and it's brilliant to see. It's a great way to keep in touch with like former colleagues and what they're up to and support their projects if and when I can. So but again, I don't tend to use it so much for promoting my own business. I prefer to use definitely LinkedIn for promoting other people's stuff. So I'm a trustee at Made with Music. They're a small charity in Leeds who they put on accessible music events for families. And when I say accessible, I don't just mean like they have a wheelchair ramp at their gigs or whatever. That's not the case at all. Everything about their events is designed by disabled people. And they have their mini gigs, which they have every few months at the Broodnell Social Club. Every mini gig they have a changing places station, which is a full changing space. So not just a disabled toilet, but has a hoist and things like that. yeah, so obviously LinkedIn and things like that, it's a great platform to be able to talk about the work I do with them as a trustee and about the amazing work that Hannah and Catherine do there. Yeah, I'd try and use it as a platform for other people's work rather than my own.
Yeah, but I mean that's on brand. That's kind of your business. So yeah, I mean it seems so. I've said this before, but I just want to get your take on it. So when I started, I've worked with marketing teams and stuff, and I've been involved in things, but I've never gone fully into marketing.
Mm.
And I think there's reasons for that in that I don't. It's not my thing, really. And when I first started the business, I did a lot of reading of like marketing stuff and like how to go about it in social media, and not loads, but you know, I read a few articles. And a lot of that and a lot of the stuff online seems very much geared towards, you know, it's just like and, you know, get more
Yeah.
likes, more shares. And it's like it took me a very long time to fully kind of know that it's not about the quantity, it's the quality. It's like it's who's clicking that, who's
Yes.
sharing it,
Yeah.
like, and what can you find out about them, and can you make them buy something?
Yeah. I think a red flag is if anyone says, oh, how can you make content that goes viral? Or we want to go viral. Good luck, because no marketing person ever can say this is the secret formula for content that goes viral. Sorry, they can't. There are loads out there who will tell you they can, they can't. It's luck. It's to do with the algorithm. It's almost like like a breeze kind of catches the sails of a boat.
Yeah.
That's the way I describe it. So yeah, I think this is part of this kind of evolution of social media, is that they can become quite lonely places, because really it's a community and it should be treated as such. And there's a lot of businesses shouting their message, and that's okay. But predominantly it's a community. It's about sharing information, sharing good stuff. And I think if that's the approach you take to social media, then that's probably the best. That's probably the best thing.
Yeah. So is there anything else on social media? Is there anything that you want to say about it that we've not had the chance to cover on it yet? So. Let's do a little bit on. So two things. So you've kind of mentioned this in terms of you with your own child, of like, you're dealing with that issue now that you know is going to come up at some point. And then the sort of AI side of things. So, I mean, obviously, you know, the dangers and the risks of social media, you know, you're realistic about it. You're not just like, oh, it's the best thing in the world and there are no downsides. So, yeah, I want to just, well, firstly, let's start with AI, because we haven't talked about that yet. So your kind of thoughts on AI, you know, do you feel like it's a threat to your job? Do you think it's something that will, you know, like you say, people buy from people. So I would imagine you're not as worried as maybe you might be if you bought into the news more. But yeah, and then maybe, because we talked about TikTok.
Yeah.
And sort of younger people. But I don't think that really, it's not something that you really have to encounter, is it? Because you're dealing in an adult space and with businesses that are looking for, you know, people who are more mature
with
consumers.
disposable income. Yeah, which sadly is not a great reality for our young people right now. Okay, so in terms of AI, I haven't worried too much about it taking over my job. Undoubtedly, there are people who are using AI as their social media manager. Like, there's no two ways about that. It's not great. Like, at the moment, it's not developed enough to be that simple, I don't think. Like I said, I think AI is great for inspiration. Everybody hits a creative block. Everybody hits writer's block. happens to everybody. And so it can be a really good, like, oh, okay, it's, giving me ideas or a new perspective. I think AI is vastly uncreative. I have friends who are artists and animators whose work is being ripped off by AI, and that is soul destroying. I think that just must be so upsetting. And I think it's the adage of the whole point of AI, the whole reason really that AI has been developed isn't it to take away like doing the dishes and like
I think it largely, realistically, I think it's to create a bubble, because they tried with NFTs and Metaverse, and because there's nowhere for growth to happen. They've run out of things, and now they're just trying desperately to inflate a new bubble so that they can tick it over and kick the can down the road a few more years. But I'm a cynical sod.
That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective, I think. I think my thing is AI has its place, but that place should be in making the boring things more efficient, taking away the boring things so that we can focus on the beautiful and interesting and artistic things. Maybe that's very idealized. I don't think that we should be creating art content with AI, because I think it's rubbish and it's disingenuous. Something that
it's already flooded the internet as well, like to the point where you can't get you stopping to get actual information now. Because your results are going to be, the first thing is going to be the made up AI thing at the top. Then
and
you're going to have
that.
And then you're going to have a bunch of AI generated articles under that have been SEO'd to the top. That people won't have read or looked at. So the grammar will be crap. Like the information will be crap if it's even right. Like, it's a big mess.
It comes down to this thing as well of, as humans, we don't like, and I think even more in British culture, we don't like the feeling of the uncanny. We don't like the feeling of we're being sold to or we're being manipulated into. We're very, very good at sussing that out. Like cats are very good at sussing that out. Humans probably come below cats. And we don't like it. And so I think while it is useful and it is a shortcut to some jobs, like I say, for me, it's been useful sometimes for writer's block, sometimes for creative block. But then it will give me a list of ideas, and I pretty much almost never will take a direct idea. It like kind of sparks something else and I run with that then. So I think, again, it comes down to this thing of we don't like being sold to, we don't like being marketed to, we can sense it, we can sense. That's that thing about the long dash, when people realize, oh, these social media posts that have the long dash, they've been written by AI. And the reason we like to pick that out is because we think that's got less value. We believe and we feel inherently that that's got less value. And I'd agree with that. So, hopefully people will realize it's got its limits and it's useful, but it'll fall out of favor. It'll stop being a trend.
I mean, I know and it's that thing of, because I've talked to academics and scientists and stuff on here, and you get, I know there are genuine research purposes for it, but anyone who's using it in a like that is using it properly, basically, you then have to verify all those results, because you have to check, because of hallucinations and things like that, where it just, and because it lies. I mean, it doesn't lie because it has no intent and it has no knowledge and it's not a thing that thinks, but it spits out lies.
Yes. And that's the thing, isn't it? Creating more work if you then have to verify it and you have to check it anyway. So I think it will fall out of favor. I hope it does anyway. If it wants to do the dishes, that's fine. Great. That's a great use of AI. But, for creative purposes, I think that's the biggest disruptor it's had in my industry. I don't like to see it. I don't appreciate it. I don't know anybody who does, actually. So it'll fade away, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. or there'll be model collapse. Have you heard of model collapse?
No. What's that?
So what they do is they scrape all the data, right? So we know that. So they've got all the data. So that's the first model, that's the first iteration, but they need new data. And so what they start to do is they start to model off the models.
Okay, yes.
So it's kind of like advanced enshittification, where it gets worser, more quicker.
Yeah. Ugh. Like,
and at a larger scale.
just,
So that's something that we might have to deal with as
it'll
well.
implode, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it'll just be spitting out like. You can't even read this anymore. What is it? Okay, so last two questions. We're doing all right for time here. How are you feeling? How's your energy
good.
level?
Yeah,
right,
fine.
good. So I'm going to do the change question next. So this is quite hard as someone that runs their own business because you can change a lot. But you can be fantastical. You can be very pragmatic if you want to be. You don't have to use all three. So if you could change any three things about your work right now, what would you change?
It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, time is definitely a factor.
Mm-hmm.
You've only got 24 hours in a day. You need to eat and sleep and look after yourself. And obviously I home educate as well. And so sometimes I just wish there was more time to do things in. I didn't ever feel that way before becoming a parent.
Yeah.
Somehow when you become a parent, time just speeds up and you're like, what is going on? So yeah, time is a huge factor. If there was something we could do, we talked, me and my husband, about the old children's TV program Bernard's Watch. Like,
oh no, I don't know that.
So he had a magical stopwatch, and it would stop time. And apart from him and the dog, I feel like he had a dog or something. And yeah, so yeah, sometimes we wish we had Bernard's watch. That would be great. What else would I change? This is really tricky.
What about social media itself? Because we've talked around it, and obviously you have your issues with it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could have ideal social media, maybe what would the model for that look like? Just everyone being nice and happy and.
Impossible, I feel. Do you know what? I would change that the social media platforms there should be laws. Well, there are laws. There are laws, but there should be more laws and more strict monitoring of their responsibility.
Too much casual attitude to media, isn't there? And it's just that, like, oh, it's just media. We have TV, so it'll be fine. It's like, that's like giving them a pack of fags. Like, you're giving them cigarettes to children. And I know we have in the past done stuff like that, but it's like, this is the same.
Yeah, I think the age limit is a thing. Like, I would say young people shouldn't be able to get access to social media before they're 18.
Yeah.
And I feel very strongly on that. I mean, we know that young people will always bypass. I was one of those young people.
Yeah, and that's cool. You know, if you've got the smarts.
As a 14-year-old, but but I do feel I would introduce that, like, raise the age limit, because those minds and feelings and emotions, they're still developing, and social media is a really dangerous influence on some of the things that people put on social media. I've also had it happen where so I remember one reel that I posted. It was on Instagram, and it was about pride content, because I really have always said to businesses, any business that I've worked in, they're like, oh, it's June, should we have like a rainbow logo? And I'm like, absolutely not, no, for these reasons. And it was basically a guide to pride for businesses. So if you're going to enter the conversation about pride, this is what you need to think about. It's about more than being an ally. And I remember posting this video, the trolls, like the comments that I got on it. And, I was just deleting them all, blocking these people. But when I reported them to Instagram, every single one, even though some of the things they were saying in these comments were absolutely disgusting and vile and hateful, they were just like, oh, it doesn't go against our community guidelines. And I was like, that must be an exceptionally low bar if there's apparently no issue with some of these comments, which were hate speech.
Yeah, it's amazing what is within the community standards and is acceptable and what isn't.
It's so wrong. They've got it so skewed. It's so messed up, and they're not being held accountable, which is a problem. So that's what I would change, is accountability around age limits for social media, around community guidelines, around education as well. I think there should be a real concerted effort from governments and from social media platforms that they should need to be involved in the education of young people.
Yeah.
That's what I would change, I guess, about my work, my industry.
Yeah. Do you have a third one, or is that?
Oh, I said time. Well.
Oh, time and the social media. What was the third one then?
I think I was saying like age limits.
Yep.
And community guidelines.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's like, that's how I'm getting around it.
No, that's great. I'm just giving you the option if you want another one. Okay, so I think this will be interesting with you. So universal basic income, have you come across this before?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So if there was a UBI, so I like to think about this retrospectively as well, because this is the most hypothetical question.
Sure.
So if it's useful for someone to think about, like starting the business, would it have been useful when you were starting the business, for example? Or would it be useful in terms of your clients who are starting up businesses and like give them a bit of, something to kind of off the business books, paying the bills, and then they can focus on building the business books up. How do you think something like that might affect your work?
I mean, I think universal basic income is an amazing idea. I'm a super socialist anyway, so I'm super left. So of course, this is like, I think, one of the like ultimate kind of socialist models, one of the ultimate socialist ideas. I think so, because my son is autistic, I see a lot of situations, and I know a lot of families where they're in a position where they can't work at all because of the needs of their child, and they're just not able to receive support. And yes, they might be getting support in the form of some respite care or whatever. But by and large, there's a huge gap. And I think universal basic income would just ease that. I think, unfortunately, we seem to still live in this like idea of the meritocracy, and it's a load of rubbish. Nobody expects to have a disabled child or a child with, additional needs. I understand that firsthand because it's happened to me. So we don't have the structures in place in this country to support all of those families adequately. We just don't. So something like universal basic income, it would close that gap, but in a way that is not like scraps from the table.
Yeah, and isn't the the teacher deciding who's a good boy and who gets to have a treat? And it's the whole thing of one of the big things for me, I think, is that if you want to have any cohesion, which I don't think is something that is actually desired by elites, we need something in this, because what is Britain at this point with devolved nations and with like, at most it's the BBC. Like, what is the thing that draws us together? Not everybody doesn't like the royal family. Everybody's not into the military history and this, that, and the other. So what is it? What are we? What is the key cohesion? Are we just individuals and families?
Yeah.
So it's that sort of, it would be something that we're all getting. It would make me feel like I'm part of something.
Yeah.
Like other people are getting it. We're getting something from the government that we just give money to, and they just do what they want with it and provide nothing to us in return, essentially.
Yeah. I think as well, from a faith point of view, you know, when you're a Christian and you read the Bible, there's a lot in there about the dangers of individualism. And I think it is.
And helping the poor.
Yeah. But individualism is like, I think it's become this like scourge in society of, and I understand why it's happening, because we've had successive governments that just are self-serving. So, you know, it becomes an every man for themselves kind of thing. So as a Christian, I think you'd find it hard to argue against a concept like universal basic income, because it gets to the heart of what Jesus told us about, you know, making sure everyone's got enough. It literally says, like, if you've got a coat and you don't wear it, give that coat to someone who needs it. Like, it's not. And I think that had a huge impact for me as well in starting the business. I was less worried about the risk because it's counter to my faith to hoard wealth. Yes, I need to keep a roof over the head. I need to be able to feed myself and my child.
Yeah.
But hoarding wealth is just so, again, counter to what life is really about. Is it going to make you any happier? Probably not. What happens to it when you die? Well, like.
But I mean, we've got prime examples, haven't we? The three top media billionaires. Are they happy? Are they sane? Are they you know, are they the best of us? Are they the hardest working? Are they exemplars of all of this meritocracy and so on? No,
Sure.
No, they're not. No.
So something like universal basic income really gets to the heart of that kind of, everybody is equal. God made us all equal, and that's how it should be. You know, again, that was a huge influence when we realized that my son was autistic. You know, as a Christian, you believe that God made everybody the way they're supposed to be, and it's not ours to question that. And so that's very easy then to be like, oh, well, you know, his behaviors might be slightly out there, or he might perceive the world in a slightly different way. But who am I to say what's right or wrong? Who am I, you know? So universal basic income, I think, again, you know, I live in Armley. We've quite a lot of disadvantage, and we've a huge refugee and asylum seeker community here. And let me tell you, they bring so much to this community. I had friends who were like a bit aghast when we bought a house in Armley. They were like, why? You know, you could live in a nice middle class area. Well, I grew up in quite a middle class area, and it was quite boring. Everybody had the same background. If there was, so there was like two Black kids in my school. Everybody knew their name because there was two of them. So they were the only two kids. Like, I don't want to bring my son up in a community like that. So that's why we moved to Armley. Again, I felt sort of called to Armley. And something like the universal basic income would have a huge impact here. Because, you know, we've got refugees and asylum seekers who've been through a lot. They've been through a lot. And they come here and they can't claim anything. And they get like £45 a week.
And they can't work.
No, and they can't, exactly, and they can't work. And let me tell you, those people...
No recourse to public funds.
Those people are the most involved in improving the area that I live in.
Yeah.
They're giving their time because they can't, you know, and they also can't give anything else. How dare we, you know, have other humans here on this island and take away their dignity in that way? It's disgusting. So something like universal basic income, even though it's like for a lot of people, it's super radical, is like, that is like, what, up there in terms of, you know, socialist ideas. I think it's brilliant. I'd love to see it introduced. I know that they're trialing it. In fact, they must be coming to the end of the trial soon, because I think it was
they did the Jarrow, and I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, but it did finish. And it's like they've done pilots. I saw this great post ages ago that was like, I'm looking forward to the next basic income experiment and reading all of the great results that come out of it and how we can do another one, but we're not actually going to implement this.
Yeah.
And like all of the stuff of like, so I don't know how much you've read around it, but just this, one of the things that stood out to me was like the health improvements from it, not just
Right.
from the lack of stress, but from people being around,
Yeah.
like working from home.
Yeah.
So there'll be people that are working from home. You remember all those things? I don't know if you'd have had them in school, but we used to get these pieces of paper that would have a drawing on with all these accidents in like a bedroom or a kitchen or something. You had to like circle the
circle the hazards kind of thing.
And it's that
Yeah.
like there are people around so that you don't, when you stick in the knife in the toaster, there's someone there to come and turn it off for you and go, what the hell are you doing? Are you going on that top shelf on the 3-legged stool like that?
It's like the 4-day week.
Yeah, another brilliant idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
Everybody's just as, if not more, productive. That businesses have seen huge, but we're not going to introduce it. And it's like, why bother then? Like,
what is the point? What is the point of we're progress and we're technologically advanced, are we? Well, why are we working more than ever? Why are we poorer than ever? Why are we more stressed? Why do we have more mental health problems? This is not any good for anyone. And the whole planet's burning, like literally burning, and filling up with water, and the cities are being submerged, the forests are disappearing, the animals are all dead. And we're like, no, we must work and every second of the day until every part of us falls off.
Keep going. Exactly. Oh gosh. Goodness me. What were we saying at the start about this week has felt like a year? Like
well, they said it doesn't help anything, does it? Like we said at the beginning, it's like you're trying to be upbeat and positive and professional and focused on reality and live in the real world and sit there, grabbing onto the grass for dear life. Like, I'm touching the grass. I'm not feeling any better. And then all of this is happening around you where we're just supposed to not feel that. We're not supposed to register it or think about it. It has an effect. And the other thing is like the social unrest that is, all you're doing is fostering more. Nobody's dealing with this. It's like, it's just going to get worse. You can't just keep displacing this. You can't just go, oh, that's a riot, we'll close that down. Oh, we're going to arrest everyone for this and we're going to do that. It's like, it only works for so long. Why did Mubarak fall in Egypt? What, because they didn't have enough, social oppression going on? No, like they had all the social oppression going on. People reached the point where they're like, enough.
Can't take it anymore.
And then when you're at that point, then it's anyone's bet where that goes. Like, allow the peaceful transitions of power, allow people to speak and respond to what they've said. Don't just go, shut up, we're not listening to you, we're going to do what we want anyway.
There we go.
To me, it's not hard, but I'm not in charge, so it's not up to me. Okay, so we're pretty much on time. Is there anything else you want to say on UBI before I start wrapping up?
I don't think so.
No.
I think we're pretty much there. That's been really fun.
I did resist the temptation of going into. I'll tell you on the wrap up. I'm gonna do the socials. So where can people find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, which is Cuckoo Social. So COU Social. Cuckoo means hi in French, by the way, which is kind of what my business does. It's something that me and my grandmother have said to each other. It's very common in France. It's like a very friendly way, like hi sweetie kind of thing. Someone you're affectionate with. So find me on Instagram there.
Cool. And before I say thank you and stop recording, is there anything else that you want to chat about? Anything you want to say before we wrap up? Don't have to, but if you feel like I don't have a voice and now is my time to speak about what I want, you can take that opportunity. But you speak all day in various voices for various people. So
that's true. That's true. No, I think I'm good actually. There was loads came out of that. So
it's pretty comprehensive as it is.
So. Crazy.
Well, thank you very much for doing this, Laura. It's been a pleasure speaking to you this morning.
Brilliant. No, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No, it's been great. I'm just going to hit stop.
Yeah.
Thank you again to Laura for being my guest. Thanks, as always, to all my guests. And thanks to you, Leeds, for being my subject. No, I haven't done a video version of this because I'm not going to put the time in to sort that out and give myself even more work. Why would I do that? That's insane. Thanks, as always, to all my guests. And thanks to you, Leeds, for being my subject. If you've not subbed on YouTube, go watch this episode on there and then do it. And then share that episode and like it. It's free, it costs you nothing, it will be a big help. If you'd like to work with Laura, then you can go to instagram.com/cuckoosocial or go to the website cuckoosocial.co.uk. Links to both of those will be in the show notes, as always. Okay, there's no episodes in October this year. I want to focus on recordings. I don't want to be doing any free recordings next year, so I need to get them all in this year. Feel free to book your place still. I need to get them done. Don't forget, you can donate to this project. Isn't that amazing? What a world we live in. So, why not try that? It would be nice if someone actually helped out with this, especially in a world where so much absolute shite gets funded. If you're listening to this on the Captivate player, you can just hit the donate button on the player you're listening to, and that will take you straight to this show's Ko-fi page. And you can donate any amount you would like, or you can, to help me with the costs and the labour for this episode, what you just listened to. Anything you can donate will be a massive help. Or you could commit to the show and take on some of the running costs and offer me a helping hand. I still want to get to 200 episodes. That's still a long way off. And there's still a lot more free labour I'll have to do for you, my colleagues. So if you want to chuck in a meaningful way, Patreon memberships start at £6 a month. That's less than the price of anything you'd buy an hour of in the real. And I'm giving you hours of local historical content each month. Well, not next month, but maybe if I had some money, I might have the energy to put some episodes out next month. £6 is basically a craft beer a month for all of this content, for 180 episodes. They're all available for free. Some of them are videos. I've been at this forever, and I haven't had the time to invest in the bloody marketing and all of this. And I don't want to be on that. It's supposed to spread by word of mouth. Patreon.com/C4Creator/working hours pod. If you'd like to contact me about anything working hours related, then you can email me about the show. Imagine that. Isn't it amazing what we can do these days? workinghourspod@western-studios.com. Okay, that's me. Remember, listener, no matter what you do, it's impossible for you to understand anything that your salary depends on you not understanding. So try and work for peace, and try and plan with some kindness. Raise your voice, but reduce your impact. Cheers, ears. Take care out there, and try and be kind to each other, Leeds. Working Hours is produced, recorded, edited, created and published by Simon Treen for Western Studios Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org. Remember Western Studios Leeds Limited when you're ready to start making your content in West Yorkshire. Follow Western Studios Leeds on Facebook, facebook.com/Western_Studios_Leeds, and on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/company/Western-Studios. Bookmark western-studios.com so you can see the latest prices and use my contact page to drop me a message about your own podcast project or working hours at any time from anywhere. Maybe you want or need a podcast host, co-host or narrator for your podcast project. Maybe you just need another voice for one or more episodes of your show. Podcasts are so much more than gossip, book promotions and marketing for online courses. Podcasts and other audio content get your online brand out there. Want to make some fundraising case studies? Want to have an audiobook or video course? Want to share your learning, knowledge and expertise in your field? Want to learn, teach or raise awareness of something general or particular? Want to improve internal comms with messages your staff might actually engage with? Or do you just want to brighten up the world with some entertaining content? Then make a podcast. If you're making your podcast within West Yorkshire, then think about making it with western-studios.com. Whatever your podcast questions or needs, get in touch with Western Studios Leeds.